The 49ers recently came across some intriguing news that initially left me uncertain until it was confirmed by an alternative source in a completely different context. Suddenly, it seemed like a conversation we needed to have, so here we are, exploring this together. If daily updates about the 49ers pique your interest, I recommend sticking around. There may be a significant move on the horizon for the 49ers, after all. A noteworthy suggestion has been made regarding the pursuit of a player, especially due to the challenging contract negotiations he is facing with his current team. For those who might not be closely following this situation, it's understandable to be unaware. Personally, I don't constantly follow the general NFL news, just a bit every day. The situation in Cincinnati seems to be deteriorating, as indications from the main office suggest he should be content with a salary lower than what he's asking for. When a player in the NFL is advised to accept a reduced salary, it undoubtedly places them in a tough position. The idea of pursuing this player has also been echoed by others. While I was outside organizing some new furniture for my patio, honestly, not everyone is particularly skilled at that. I was listening to a podcast where the 49ers were mentioned as a team that might be interested in acquiring top-tier talent to support their star player. If the 49ers decide to go after this player, it would undoubtedly be an exciting decision, but it's essential to consider the costs involved. Reports indicate that this would require a first-round pick. My child is trying to get my attention here, but they'll have to wait while I record this video. In any case, the 49ers would need to give up a first-round pick in 2025. To understand what's required, it will involve that first-round pick, and my child continues trying to communicate with me. So, they'll need to wait while I'm recording this video. Certainly, it will cost the 49ers that first-round pick in 2025. There's also a slight trade of picks involved, which might sound more intense than I initially indicated, and for that, I apologize. The 49ers would receive the 17th and 11th picks, along with a third-round pick at 75th overall and another third-round pick at 100th. That's what's projected. Although the 49ers aren't undergoing a complete rebuild this offseason, they've allowed several key contributors to leave the team and now need to find ways to replace them. We can all agree on that. The 49ers might target their second pass rusher in the draft. BR's scouting department recently forecasted that Shamar Stewart from Texas A&M would be selected by San Francisco. With $40.3 million in cap space, they may also consider trading for Hendrickson. San Francisco is equipped with 2 third-round picks, having received a special compensatory selection due to the signings of Demo Ryan and Rancon. They could also offer both picks, along with a significant move in the first round, to Cincinnati in exchange for Hendrickson. Now, the 49ers have been mentioned several times in relation to a potential move back in the draft, with many suggesting the team should consider that option. This would be a scenario where if they decide to do it, instead of gaining more picks, they could move back to acquire true first-line talent. There's one last issue that escapes me at the moment, but I'll find it quickly. The important thing is that this is what will be necessary to get the player. My main concern is with the age and financial investment. Some may think it's not a bad deal in terms of draft capital, and I'll leave you to decide in the comments whether 2 third-round picks, one at 75th and the other 100th, plus a first-round pick trade, would be a good strategy. In my view, the age is acceptable and the financial issue is manageable. If some people think it doesn't affect draft capital much, I invite you to share your opinions in the comments. Think about whether 2 third-round picks, corresponding to the 75th and 100th overall selections, along with a first-round pick trade, would be fair for the 49ers when acquiring a truly all-pro talent. I'm curious to know what you think about that. However, my main concern lies in the fact that the player is already 30 years old, and financially, he expects a payment around $15 million this year, especially after an all-pro season. He's aiming for a significant salary, and we all know this narrative. This situation is likely not to change if he joins the 49ers, which heightens my concern. However, if the 49ers decide to follow a draft capital strategy, this could be a favorable year for that, as they are currently in a respectable position regarding draft value. They hold the 7th spot in the NFL according to PFF's draft values. I understand that PFF's evaluations may be seen as somewhat average, and I don't delve too deeply into those details. So feel free to share your opinions in the comments if you disagree with this analysis. Looking at Robert Saleh and the opportunities available to the 49ers at the 11th pick, along with the 75th and 100th picks, these represent 3 of the 4 top picks, a significant point. However, it's reasonable to say that if they decide to move forward, doing so in a year where they have considerable draft value is advantageous, as it can help mitigate the potential loss of a significant portion of their draft capital. Still, I remain cautious about the amount of draft capital being offered for a player who will also expect a high contract and is already in his 30s. However, he had an all-pro season, which adds value to his situation. If I were in Robert Saleh's position, I would trust in my coaching skills and our scouting team, which was exceptional last year. I place my faith in these people. If the draft capital isn't bringing the expected results, and you're still relying on Trey Hendrickson, then it's worth moving forward. In terms of what the situation would entail for Trey Hendrickson as a player, he led in sacks, finished first in pressures, and 4th in tackles and hurries. Pro Football Focus rated him as a pass rusher with a 90.4 grade, but he performed below expectations against the run last season. So he's not Leonard Floyd, but he showed a significant improvement over him, which represents a considerable increase in value. This would require a substantial financial investment and a significant amount of draft capital, but clearly, he represents an upgrade over Leonard Floyd. One of the reasons some believe Leonard Floyd might be leaving is unrelated to his pass rush. It's entirely connected to run defense. The 49ers have needed more efficient run defense for quite some time, and that's been evident. A change in the team is one of the reasons many believe a player is no longer part of the squad, but this is not related to his performance on pressure plays. The concern lies in run defense. The same can be said about another player. The need to improve run defense has been around for a while, and it's not new, as it goes back to the exciting 2023 season. If the team opts to acquire a skilled player, they're certainly making a significant addition, and I'm not the only one saying this. A football analyst commented on this situation, highlighting that while the team will have a healthy player to occupy one end of the defensive line, the opposite position has been marked by a lot of changes. With a player leaving for another team, the roster now has 2 players occupying the role of the top pass rushers on the other side. To be fair, one of those players is highly versatile. He can play edge, but also function in the middle of the line, which makes him more flexible in this regard, so he still has value. If the possibility of a new player is on the table, it's certain the team will be looking to select 1 or 2 talented defenders in the next draft, at least. Speculation is still high that a trade for an established defensive end is a real possibility for the team, regardless of the presence of promising rookies, and this is evident by how the team has met with some athletes. It's clear they're looking for a high-level edge. That's obvious. While the team's defensive unit didn't perform better than the defense in 2024, last season was excellent for one player in particular who led the league in sacks with 17, including a game where he registered 4 sacks against an opponent. Pairing that player, who is 31 years old, with another athlete would represent an immediate boost in talent on the defensive line, as well as provide additional time to integrate 1 or 2 rookies into the rotation this season. The main argument for this acquisition, if it is being considered, is that proven talent is hard to find. You can make good picks in the draft, but you never know how things will really unfold. With good coaching, which seems to be present this season, especially on defense, there's an opportunity to select these players. However, there are no guarantees, and opting for an athlete with a history of immediate impact could be an alternative. Another point of concern is that we often discuss these players as if their past performance guarantees their future, and that's not a certainty. We've seen that happen with another player recently. Past performance doesn't ensure the future. Relating to another player, his situation is not exactly comparable, although he faced some difficulties and seemed out of shape at the start of the season. I'm not saying this necessarily suggests that, if he had stayed healthy throughout, he wouldn't have been valuable to the team. He would have been extremely useful. A player capable of winning matchups was needed, and he certainly would have found his rhythm and started getting the ball. I have no doubt he would have become a valuable asset, maybe not with the same numbers, but his efficiency was notable, and he would have at least contributed in some way. With this in mind, it's interesting to consider the possibility of acquiring a skilled player. I don't know if you've heard rumors about this, but should the team be interested? I don't think he will accept a specific amount of play, so this would need to be a trade situation followed by a new contract. The concern is that the last thing they want is to trade for a player dissatisfied with his current salary. And so, dealing with trade situations, honestly, I'm exhausted from this, and maybe it's not particularly productive. If this player is the best option for the team, then so be it, but the last thing I want to see is a trade for someone who's unhappy with his current salary of about $15.8 million or something like that, and is trying to capitalize on his all-pro season. I'm not excited about this move, even though I believe he could be a great addition. However, this issue is gaining momentum. Many people are debating it, and they're not just repeating one person's opinion. Everyone is bringing their own perspective from different angles. I think it's relevant to consider that if a player is determined not to show up, maybe it's advantageous for his team to seek a trade and let him go. They've clearly invested a lot in their offensive strategies, which is understandable given the talent they have, like Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, and T. Higgins. It's natural for them to prioritize the offensive side of the game and ensure they keep the best pieces in the organization. This is just a sensible practice in free agency, keeping valuable athletes and preventing them from leaving. The team is well aware of the risks of keeping players for long periods, and while I don't think this applies to this player, it's important to note that a pass rusher, especially one weighing around 270 pounds, is subject to physical wear and tear, and there's a legitimate concern in signing a player who is already in his 30s and paying him handsomely after an all-pro season. This is something to be considered, as it's them who need to deal with the financial ramifications of paying someone after an all-pro season. We've seen this scenario repeated often. Personally, I'm not in favor of it, but I'm genuinely curious about what you think about this. For me, there are 18 days until the 2025 NFL Draft, so let's focus on that. Let's direct our efforts toward the draft and see how we can make it effective. If it were up to me, that would be my focus. I'm excited to read your thoughts in the comments. I'm looking forward to hearing your reflections as we approach this important event, with only 18 days until the NFL Draft. Let's focus exclusively on the draft and see how we can optimize our opportunities during this critical period. For me, this is the best strategy. I'm looking forward to reading your messages, as always, and I hope you're enjoying a great weekend. Make the best use of the time we have ahead. But before we dive in, don't forget to subscribe to 49ers Zone and hit the like button on this video. Your support helps us keep bringing you the latest updates on the San Francisco 49ers. And don't forget to share your thoughts on the news in the comments below. The San Francisco 49ers are making waves in the NFL offseason with a bold pursuit of legendary quarterback Aaron Rodgers. Despite his recent struggles with injuries and an up-and-down tenure with the New York Jets, the four-time MVP remains one of the most decorated passers in league history. According to league sources, the 49ers are aggressively exploring avenues to bring Rodgers back to California, where he once starred for the Cal Golden Bears. Could this be the final chapter in an illustrious career, or the spark that reignites Rodgers' championship aspirations? For years, the 49ers have flirted with the idea of acquiring Rodgers, but obstacles, whether contractual, strategic, or financial, always stood in the way. Now, with uncertainty surrounding their quarterback situation, San Francisco sees a window of opportunity to finally land the future Hall of Famer. After falling just short in recent Super Bowl runs, the organization believes Rodgers could be the missing piece to claim their long-awaited sixth Lombardi Trophy. His experience, leadership, and proven ability to thrive in high-pressure moments make him an enticing target for a team built to win now. However, questions remain about Rodgers' durability and long-term viability. At 41 years old, he is coming off a season where injuries and inconsistencies plague his return to action. Can he still perform at an elite level? The 49ers, known for their strong offensive line and dominant running game, could provide the perfect environment to maximize Rodgers' talents while minimizing physical wear and tear. If the deal comes to fruition, head coach Kyle Shanahan would have one of the sharpest football minds in the game leading his offense, a tantalizing prospect for 49ers fans. Negotiations, however, won't be simple. Rodgers' contract with the Jets remains a significant hurdle, and trade discussions could hinge on whether New York is willing to absorb part of his salary. Additionally, Rodgers himself has been unpredictable regarding his football future, previously hinting at retirement or even a non-traditional exit from a sport. If the 49ers can convince him that San Francisco is the ideal landing spot, they could secure one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time for a high-stakes championship push. As the NFL world watches closely, the Rodgers to 49ers saga is shaping up to be one of the defining storylines of the offseason. Will the California native return to his home state and make one last run at glory? Or will negotiations falter, leaving San Francisco searching for answers elsewhere? One thing is certain: the prospect of Aaron Rodgers in the red and gold is a thrilling possibility that could shake up the league in 2025. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to keep receiving exclusive news about the San Francisco 49ers, make sure to subscribe to 49ers Zone and give this video a like. We always look forward to hearing your comments and opinions. See you in the next video.